Here's a question that sounds simple but completely rewrites what you thought you knew about dinosaurs. How is it that these creatures conquered land and air, but never the ocean? Think about it. For 230 million years, dinosaurs were nature's A-team. They filled jungles, deserts, and skies. They evolved into hunters, grazers, scavengers, and flyers. But not a single one ever took the full plunge. They ruled Earth, but never its oceans. Not one true aquatic dinosaur ever existed. And that's one of evolution's strangest unsolved mysteries. Now, before we go further, let's get one thing straight. Those terrifying sea monsters you've seen in documentaries, plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, mosasaurs, they weren't dinosaurs. They were marine reptiles that just happened to live at the same time. Dinosaurs, meanwhile, stayed stubbornly landlocked. Sure, a few flirted with the shoreline, but none ever made the full commitment. Why? The answer isn't just biology. It's timing, physics, and a few cruel evolutionary dead ends. Let's start with the ones that almost made it. Modern birds, the only surviving dinosaurs, are already halfway there. Penguins rocket through icy waters at 20 miles per hour. Cormorants dive deep enough to rival seals. Albatrosses cross entire oceans without touching land for years. But they still have to come back, to breathe, to nest, to raise their chicks. The ocean is their hunting ground, not their home. Now, rewind 100 million years. Back then, some dinosaurs were trying to do what penguins eventually perfected. Take Spinosaurus, a bizarre predator that looked part crocodile, part sailboat. It had a long snout full of fish-snatching teeth, nostrils pushed up high on its skull, and a tail that may have functioned like a paddle. This thing was built for water, but not for the open ocean. And then there's Halskaraptor, a duck-sized dino with flipper-like arms, a long neck full of vibration sensors, and a body that seems halfway between bird, reptile, and otter. It may have been the closest any dinosaur ever came to living like a penguin. Yet, despite all that evolutionary potential, they both stopped short of going fully aquatic. And it's not for lack of trying, it's because evolution slammed the door shut in their faces. The first barrier? Competition. When dinosaurs first appeared in the late Triassic, the oceans were already spoken for. Marine reptiles like ichthyosaurs had been perfecting the aquatic lifestyle for millions of years. They owned every niche, from small fish eaters to whale-sized giants. If you were a dinosaur thinking of taking a dip, you'd be entering a food chain already packed with specialists. It's the evolutionary equivalent of trying to start a new burger chain in a world already run by McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King. The market was full, and as the ages passed, it only got worse. By the time of the Cretaceous, the seas were home to mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and massive sharks. Super predators that would have made even T-Rex look twice before diving in. But just so dinosaurs stayed where they were winning, on land. Why risk drowning when you already dominate the continents? But even if they'd wanted to, their own biology made the move nearly impossible. Eggs were the first deal breaker. All dinosaurs laid hard, calcium carbonate shells. Great for air, disastrous for water. Those shells are porous. They allow gas exchange for the embryo. Submerge them and water floods in. The embryo drowns before it even starts to form. That's why sea turtles still drag themselves onto beaches to lay eggs. And why marine mammals took a completely different path. When reptiles like snakes and lizards went aquatic, many evolved live birth. But dinosaurs never happened. The group they belonged to, Archosaurs, which also includes crocodiles, almost never evolved live birth. Their reproductive system is a one-lane road, hard-shelled eggs or nothing. So unless a dinosaur invented scuba gear for its offspring, its evolutionary options stopped at the shoreline. Then there's the bone problem. Most large dinosaurs had pneumatic skeletons, bones full of air sacs connected to their lungs. Perfect for breathing on land. A nightmare for diving underwater. Those hollow bones turned them into biological pool noodles. They'd float whether they wanted to or not. Imagine trying to dive while your body insists on bobbing to the surface. Not exactly ideal for stealth hunting. To truly master the ocean, they would have needed denser, heavier bones like whales or penguins have. That would mean reinventing their entire respiratory system. Evolution can do that, but it takes time, and dinosaurs never had the right push. And that brings us to another problem: momentum. Evolution loves gradual transitions, but dinosaurs were already locked into their success story. The big theropods were busy evolving sharper teeth and stronger jaws. Sauropods were getting heavier and more terrestrial. Ceratopsians were sprouting horns and frills. Everything about their anatomy was moving away from the ocean, not toward it. Once an evolutionary path proves successful, nature rarely scraps it for a new one. Dinosaurs were too optimized for land to start over. Even size worked against them. The average dinosaur was enormous and several tons of muscle and bone. Animals that big can't just experiment with new environments. Evolutionary pioneers almost always start small. Amphibians, early whales, even marine iguanas. They begin as tiny creatures exploring shallow water before scaling up. Dinosaurs? They started huge and only got bigger. That's a terrible blueprint for reinvention. Then came the asteroid, the one event that could have given dinosaurs a second chance. When it struck 66 million years ago, it erased the mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and almost every other marine reptile. The oceans were suddenly wide open, but dinosaurs were gone too. Only the birds survived, and they chose the sky instead of the sea. Meanwhile, mammals, already equipped with live birth and dense bones, stepped into that empty niche. Within 10 million years, they'd produced whales, dolphins, and seals. Mammals did in a geological instant what dinosaurs couldn't do in 200 million years. If dinosaurs had somehow managed it, though, what would they have looked like? We might have seen oceanic versions of T-Rex, sleek, fin-armed predators with tails shaped like shark flukes, or giant, long-necked herbivores walking along the seafloor, feeding on seaweed like aquatic giraffes. Maybe even armored, slow-moving grazers scraping algae from coral reefs. The closest real-world example we have comes from metriorhynchids, a group of ancient marine crocodiles that actually pulled it off. They lost their heavy scales, grew smooth, hydrodynamic skin, and developed flippers and tail fins. They became reptilian dolphins, proving it was possible for archosaurs, dinosaurs' cousins, to evolve into true sea creatures. Dinosaurs just never got their turn. That's the tragedy and beauty of evolution. It's not about what's possible, it's about what happens first. Dinosaurs were already kings of the land and sky. Their success trapped them there. Why fix what isn't broken? But if things had gone differently, if the asteroid had missed, if they'd had a few million more years to experiment, our oceans might look completely different today. Imagine surfing over a reef and seeing a fin break the surface. Not a shark, but a reptilian descendant of T-Rex cutting through the waves. Evolution isn't a story of perfection. It's a story of trade-offs. And dinosaurs traded the ocean for everything else. They became the rulers of Earth, but they never ruled its depths. And maybe that's why their story still fascinates us. Because even the mightiest creatures that ever lived had limits. So next time you see a penguin torpedoing through the water, or a whale breaching at sea, remember, you're looking at a life form that solved a puzzle dinosaurs never could. And if you think that's wild, wait until you hear about the creature that did manage to master both air and water, and it's still alive today.